Was there a light switch moment for you in high school or even before that was the defining moment as far as joining the Navy and in particular becoming a SEAL?
It would have been after high school. So coming up, I don't recall ever even seeing a service member in uniform. So the military was never something that was on my radar or even that I thought I was good enough to do. Maybe it was even that. I didn't think that, I was capable to be a part of an organization that was held in that high of a regard. But when I graduated high school and I knew I wasn't going to go to college, I went into just basically working on a small farm. And I just had the realization one day that if I didn't find something else that was going to take me somewhere else than where I was, then that was kind of going to be my lot in life. And I don't know what clicked. I just had that realization. I was just burnt out on, making $300 or $400 a week and working 70 hours and just being dog tired all the time. And back then, the Navy was recruiting very heavily for the SEAL teams.
What year did you graduate?
That would have been 2006.
Okay.
Yep. And I remember looking on a laptop computer and seeing an ad banner pop up for the SEAL teams, the program. And at this point, you could get a SEAL contract to actually join the Navy without having to go to the fleet first or going to a different A school. And so I looked into that, and that's what I guess you could say that's what I ended up doing. It took me a long time to get to BUD/S.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
But, how did that go?
Well, first I had to pass the PST. I didn't know how to swim. Had never really ran, nothing like that. So I had to pass the PST. It took me about 3 months to pass it one time.
Is that before you joined or after?
This was before I joined. Okay. Yeah. So just to get the contract, I'd take it every week. Finally passed it, got the contract, went to boot camp, and on the last day of boot camp, my RDCs pulled me out of formation, told me I had to go to medical. So I marched over to medical, and the dive medical officer there proceeded to tell me that I had a 7-centimeter pericardial cyst on my heart.
Oh, wow.
And it was an asymptomatic condition, so it would never bother me my entire life. But they were worried that if I did make it through BUD/S, when I dove, that the pressure change would burst the cyst. So they kicked me out of the Navy. They basically just said, you don't have the option of becoming a SEAL. And I could have went to the fleet, but breach of contract, I decided to get out. And after a hard time, I finally found a surgeon that would perform this elective surgery. And they opened my chest up and took this pericardial cyst off my heart. And I went back into the Navy less than a year after that heart surgery. Was the
surgery, it sounds invasive, but was it in terms of recovery? Like, was it a tough surgery and tough recovery?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough surgery. It was invasive. The pericardial cyst is a pretty rare condition. So it was interesting. The surgeon that did perform the surgery, he had never removed one of these things before. He was just studying other cases, the few cases that there were out there of this condition. And when I came out of it, I think the biggest thing I had going for me is, I was 18, 19 years old, and I recovered fast. The biggest, I guess, longest thing that took was to swim, because when I would stretch out in the water and try to get long in the water, it would pull on those muscles in my chest and cause a significant amount of pain. But yeah, after a few months, I was back good to go.
Yeah. Was there any, I know you said it was asymptomatic, but was there any difference performance-wise before having it and then after not? Did it make any difference?
I never would have known I had it if I wouldn't have went through a dive physical.
Yeah, wow. So when you went back in, how did you get to skip boot camp and go straight to BUD/S at that point?
Thank God, yeah. Because I made it to the last day of boot camp. We were literally going to the thing where you exchange your hat that says recruit for your hat that says Navy.
Yeah.
Because I made it that far, when I did come back in, they let me skip boot camp. Now, I still had to sit on hold for a couple of months while they reviewed this case, because when I showed back up in the Navy, it was the same dive medical officer that had disqualified me was still in that position. So when I walked back into his office, obviously he was like, "What are you doing back here, man?" And so once I gave them the paperwork from the civilian surgeon, they pushed it all the way up and finally approved it.
Yeah. So a couple of months on hold, and then did you go through A school, or you went straight to BUD/S?
Yeah, I went straight to BUD/S. BUD/S class 278. I went straight through with 278. Never, no rolls, injuries, nothing.
Was there any aspect of SEAL training that stuck out for you as being easier than you thought it would be, or more difficult than you thought it would be?
No, the best way to answer that question for me personally, Mike, is BUD/S was one of the, if not the only thing in my life personally that lived up to my expectations for what I expected it to be, right? It was actually probably harder as a whole than what I thought it would be.
Was there a hardest part for you?
The hardest part for me was probably the cold water, man.
Yeah.
The surf torture. I mean, you see how skinny I am. I've always been a skinny dude that grew up in the heat in North Georgia and the humidity and boy, that cold water, I did not like it one bit, man. But I had so much invested just to get on the start line to have a shot at this. I mean, I can truly say I would have died before. You know,
I don't doubt that. I mean, a lot of people say that. I believe you more than probably anybody.
I just had too much invested, man. It was a blessing to go into that with that much invested, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would have made it if I would have went in the first time.
Really?
I don't think I would have.
So the surgery added a level of currency dedication-wise, huh?
You never realize how hungry you are for something until it's taken from you.
Yeah. No, I understand. Absolutely. All right. So you graduate through BUD/S. For me, not that you asked, but the island, San Clemente Island, was the worst part for me. But because it was...
You are not lying, man.
Yeah, because we went through in February. It was El Nino, so the water was like 58 degrees. The surf was like 12 feet. And we had a big class, and they fucking hated us. I know everybody says that the instructors hate you, but like they wanted to try to get rid of as many guys as possible. And so, yeah, it was miserable. But it was worse than Hell Week, absolutely. But
That's
all right,
a hard place, dude.
Yeah. No, it is. All right. So which SEAL team did you go to after you graduated?
So we went from BUD/S to SQT, which is the newer pipeline. I guess they're still doing that. And then after SQT, I went to SEAL Team 8, and that's where I spent my entire career. Other than the very end, I was at Tradette for a little while doing training, taught MAROPS, land warfare. Had a lot of fun there. But yeah, Team 8 was where I was at my whole career.
How many platoons deployments did you do there?
I had 2 platoons, and then we had some kind of smaller deployment type trips, in between those. So,
on your first deployment, where did you guys go on that one?
The first deployment was just a EUCOM deployment. Yeah, we were all over Europe and mostly just FID stuff.
Yeah. Was there any part of that correlated to some of the Middle East stuff, or was it segregated that way?
Yeah, it was segregated. I mean, the interesting thing about, I guess, my career in the teams, I'm still processing a lot of it, man. I've only been out for about 2 years, and when I showed up to Team 8, Team 8 had just got allocated to the continent of Africa, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so there were, when you go through the training pipeline and the whole time you're being told, you're going, man, you're going. And then you show up to Team 8, and you're like, well, this team is actually allocated to a different region. It was there were a lot of bad attitudes, man.
Yeah, I can see.
I mean, there were
I can see being salty about that.
I mean, there were a lot of bad attitudes, man, and my entire career was it was wrought with
piss and vinegar.
mistakes and bad attitudes and
How was your attitude towards that? Did you fall in that same mentality?
Yeah. You definitely you can't help it, man. I mean, you get sucked into it, and it's always hard for me too to determine how much do we really say about this stuff, because I feel like the SEAL teams have been painted, a picture of the SEAL teams have been painted. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's very few people who actually talk about
some of the other shit that goes on.
Talk about what it's really like, man. Yeah. And, I don't know. It's hard to, I haven't processed it enough yet to really know what to do. And just, I had, during that first deployment, I had my Sea Daddy, Jake Hubman. He was my mentor. I lost him after that. He killed himself after that first deployment, and just seeing the way that he was treated, and it's hard for me to reconcile with this stuff, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. You almost have in a way, there's a part of me that has a bone to pick.
Sure.
I don't know, but
yeah. No, I mean, I certainly understand where you're coming from. I mean, there were different periods in my career that were fortuitous as far as deployment schedules, and there were some that were not so much, and it didn't have anything to do with our skill level as a platoon or whether or not we were liked or not, or how well we worked together or any of that. It was really just dumb luck, my second platoon, we were slated to be we were supposed to go to the Middle East, and then at the last minute they yanked the rug out, and we were going to go to Southeast Asia and spend, we were going to deploy to Guam and do some exercises in the Philippines and go to Thailand, and the standard kind of lot that way. And then halfway through that, Iraq kicked off, and so we ended up going and doing that. And so, as kind of a classic example, is that it was supposed to be one thing, and then it turned into another, and then it turned into something else entirely, and none of that had anything to do with us.
Yeah,
I mean, nothing. Like we could have been the best platoon at Team 3, we could have been the worst. It wouldn't have mattered. Like that's just where we were at, and kind of where we were destined to be, I guess. But
yeah, totally, man, totally. Yeah, and I've had to. I think too, for me, a big part of, I've only been out of the Navy for like 2 years, and like a big part of this transition has been me coming to the understanding that I was a part of that organization, mm-hmm. but who am I now? Because I'm no longer a part of that organization. Like,
yeah,
I did everything they asked me to do. I earned the right to have my trident. But now who am I now? Because I'm no longer part of that organization anymore. And how do you interact with that past? Mm-hmm. Like,
it's tough.
How do you interact with that? You know what I mean? In terms of what do you share about it? Like, you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, it's, I've been out for a while, just over a decade now, and it is tricky. There's a lot of dynamics that play a role in those decisions, and there's also, I think, the internal element that whatever it was that attracted you to that line of work in the first place, and whatever you possess within yourself to be able to succeed and thrive in that line of work, means that you are wired different than most people. Mm-hmm. And when you go from that environment where that is truly your identity, mm-hmm. it's not a job, that is who you are. Like, mm-hmm. to your core, that's, what everybody thinks of you. Like, you're not Chad Wright, you're a Navy SEAL, and then you're Chad Wright, and
yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah. And so I see it a lot, and I will say, I feel very fortunate in that I didn't really struggle with that or run into that when I got out, for a number of reasons, which I'll share in a minute. But I see a lot of guys they get out and their entire identity is attached to what they used to do, and now that's yanked out from under them and they're lost.
Yeah,
you know, and especially when they go from that to something very benign career-wise, like finance or insurance or fucking whatever. You know, they work in an office and they're dressed in a suit, and you can encapsulate their entire career, no matter how illustrious it was, in one bullet point as, oh yeah, that dude used to be a SEAL.
Yeah,
that's the extent of it, you know. And you could have spent 15 years getting your hands dirty for Uncle Sam doing some amazing shit, but now you're just some other dickweed in a tie that used to be a SEAL, and that's the most that anybody's going to squeeze out of that period of your life, and that is really difficult for most guys to deal with if they're not doing something like running until your legs fall off or letting dogs bite you in the nuts or whatever, you know. So
it's been essential to find a new mission. 100%.
Yeah, it's crucial. And that's, you know, that was going to be my point, is that, you know, for me, I didn't struggle because it was a springboard out of the military right into setting up my own business and doing what I was passionate about. And to me, that's ultimately the key, is that, you know, you hear the question, you know, what's the meaning of life? And to me, it just boils down to one single word, which is purpose, whatever that is for each person. You know, is that if when they wake up, they're excited about what their day is going to bring them, they're going to be happy and they're going to feel fulfilled and they're going to feel like their life has meaning. On the transverse, if those things are absent, you're going to be a miserable fucking wretch. And that's where people, you know, turn to pain pills and booze and start a pistol because they're fucking miserable, you know, and it's sad. But, you know, anyway.
Yeah, and I think all that being said, I think it's worth to take a minute to recognize, even amongst this conversation that can really only be had between two team guys, because we're kind of the only type of people that could understand it. I think it's worth taking a moment to say that in spite of all the flaws and the difficult transitions and the struggles that all of us have, that I still truly believe that some of the best men on earth pass through the doors of naval special warfare.
Yeah, I could not.
I mean, without a doubt. And I think that's one of the things that I struggle with so much is to how to interact with that part of my past, because I have such a respect for that community because of the men who did make it what it stands for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, that's a deep level of respect, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel very fortunate, and it sounds like age-wise you were in a pretty similar boat. I mean, from 18 to 30, I was surrounded by what it sounds like you would argue the same thing, were some of the greatest men on the face of the earth, you know, that were 10, 15, 20 years older than us, that had been there, done that collectively took all of us under their wings and turned us into men, frankly. You know, I mean, we grew up in the SEAL teams, you know. I mean, you're not a fucking man at 18. You know, just because the law says technically, you know, you're an adult, you're not, you know. And that path, I think about, you know, how wildly different my life would be if I had done anything else, you know, and it would be vastly different. I can rest assure you that you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking.
Oh yeah,
you know,
exactly
there's
right.
no way. But that's interesting. I'm sorry to hear about your mentor taking his own life. I know that has plagued our community more than I think a lot of people would assume or expect or even believe. But so your first platoon was a Europe kind of training mission, foreign internal defense type of environment. You get back. What was the transition into the second platoon, and then ultimately where you went for that one?
Yeah, I got back home, and I guess the big thing that kind of you know, you just jump right back into the training cycle, and you were going again, you know, another ULT, and the next big rotation, we knew we were going to Africa. We didn't know where. And finally ended up going to Northern Africa when the Arab Spring was getting crazy and the embassy in Benghazi was attacked. And that was not just isolated to that single area like most people think, because that's what the news focused on. So at the last minute, we shifted locations and we went to North Africa, Tunisia, and that embassy had gotten hammered, dude. And we spent a couple of months there doing good work, and that was one of the highlights of that deployment.
From growing up as a kid in small town Georgia to all the trials and tribulations that took place of the challenges and obstacles you had to overcome just to become a SEAL, knowing what that job is, being driven to want to serve in that capacity, being what sounds like maybe a little salty and let down about the first deployment. Mm-hmm. Now you find yourself with all of that having transpired, and now here you are, varsity team, fucking Super Bowl, whatever. I know you're not a football guy.
Yeah.
Say baseball, it's the World Series, and you're up at bat, and now you're finally boots on the ground in an area where shit's going down. What is going through your mind?
I loved it, man. I mean, that was probably one of the coolest, real missions that we got to be a part of. And what was going through my mind, it teaches you how to really lean on your teammates in a deeper way, right? And it teaches you how to trust your teammates in a whole new way.
Yeah.
And because especially in a place where like we weren't on some big, installation or some big established base, and it was a lot of growing. It was a lot of growing in terms of taking the job seriously, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
So,
is there a couple of incursions or instances, whether you want to call them missions? I mean, it sounds like it was all kind of one long one in that regard, but I will say operations individually or specifically that stand out that you can share and kind of walk us through that you guys went through that were of note.
Yeah, I mean, probably, I guess the main challenge that we faced within the scope of that specific mission, if you want to call it that, was dealing with the incompetency of the State Department, mm-hmm. And trying to get all of their people essentially herded into a safe location. And while we were there, these, if you want to say riots or attacks, they would pop up fairly frequently. And it was like herding cats, man, trying to get these people into a safe location while these pop-up things were happening. And another cool part of that mission too was working with a Green Beret Special Forces unit called a SIF team.
Yeah.
Those guys were there, and it was my first time actually getting to integrate with another unit and work side by side and share tactics and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
For what we were doing. The other stuff that was going on kind of in the background, I don't know that it'd be proper to talk about it.
Sure, it would.
On
but of course it would.
Yeah.
On mic drop, it's always proper to talk about it.
Like I say, man, it's
you won't
always,
get in trouble if you talk about it.
It's always like, how much do you go into
Sure.
specific detail about all the different components of what's happening in an area like that,
yeah.
that involve other 3-letter agencies and other
yeah.
than just us.
Sure.
You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, you're not the only show in town.
No, it was a complex environment for sure.
Yeah. Could you speak to any hairy situations, not disclosing who was there or what the goal was or anything like that, but just like, ground level, almost first person, orientation of kind of, something where maybe you were in a mentality or a mindset of, I don't know if this is gonna pan out well for us, or were there situations that happened like that?
We really never got in a situation there where we felt like we were about to lose control. I felt like once we arrived there, we established a good foothold and came up with a defensive strategy quickly enough that there was never a moment where it was like, holy crap, we're about to lose this structure, right?
Yeah.
Some of the weirdest moments, I guess, for me there is kind of after we had been there for a little while and our presence was known and everything had kind of calmed down a little bit. I guess the weirdest feelings I remember having, or the most eerie feelings, would be just walking from that compound to actually where the safe house where we were staying in, and with an MP5 in your backpack and a concealed carry weapon, and it's the sun's going down and the call for prayer starts going off, and the same people who were gathered in the streets 2 or 3 days before, they're watching you, they're patterning you, they know where you're at, and there were many a times I walked back and forth that I felt the hair on my back, the back of my neck stand up, man.
Yeah. Which for you is quite a bit, right? Not back then.
Not back then, no. We actually did get to grow our beards out there, so that was pretty sweet.
How close was yours then to what it is now?
Oh, nowhere near. Nowhere near.
I mean, how many months or years of growth do you have there?
Oh, I haven't shaved since I got out.
Oh, no shit. It's a couple of years worth.
Yeah.
That's badass.